Greetings to all lovers of mystery and secrets. Did you know that you could be a descendant of Genghis Khan? A study has shown that about 16 million people carry the genes of this infamous Mongol ruler. But that's not all. The Genghis Khan's conquests caused so many deaths that they even altered the planet's climate. What unimaginable suffering did this brutal ruler, the first Khan of the Mongols, bring to the world? His vast empire eclipsed those of Alexander the Great and Napoleon. And where is Genghis Khan's tomb hidden? There's a bloody reason this mystery remains unsolved. Everyone who knew its location was mercilessly executed. Born between 1155 and 1167, Genghis Khan, real name Temujin, accomplished what no tribal leader before him had, uniting the Mongols under one banner and conquering territory on an unimaginable scale. After Kublai Khan continued the aggressive expansion, which engulfed nearly all of Asia and part of Europe, the Mongol Empire became the second largest in world history. Its territory spanned over 23.5 million square kilometers, second only to the British Empire. However, the people in the conquered lands did not welcome the Mongol armies with open arms. The path to creating the second largest empire in history was paved with blood. The number of lives lost during the Mongol campaigns has never been fully established. According to legend, during the conquest of Baghdad, Genghis Khan's forces killed 800,000 civilians and soldiers, and in Merv, up to 1.3 million. When compared to the lives lost during the conquest of China, even these numbers seem small. Reportedly, 29 million people perished. Even though some experts believe traditional death tolls are exaggerated, one thing is certain: these horrific mass deaths marked a turning point in history. Earth's climate changed due to these large-scale deaths. Genghis Khan is said to have killed between 50 to 70 million people in his lifetime. So many people died that the amount of CO2 on Earth was altered. Samples revealed that during Genghis Khan's rule, there was less carbon dioxide in Earth's atmosphere. Indeed, researchers have concluded that Genghis Khan's campaigns affected the global climate. But how is that even possible? The authors of the study provide a simple answer: reforestation. When the Mongols wiped out entire regions, vegetation grew unchecked in the depopulated areas, absorbing more CO2 from the atmosphere, leading to global cooling. This uncontrolled plant growth led to what is known as the Little Ice Age. But the brutality of the Mongols didn't end there. The countless deaths not only had a direct impact on the climate and nature, but also left an unforgettable impression on anyone who witnessed it. The Mongols dined on their dying enemies. Historians commented, the Mongols destroyed an entire city in China during the Qing dynasty, and when a delegation arrived at the city, they mistook the pile of bones for a snow-capped mountain. Wagon wheels got stuck in heaps of corpses on the ground. And when people finally made it to the city, they realized that the supposed mountain was actually a massive pile of bones. Stories like these show that the Mongols were masters of psychological terror. In battles, they used tricks to make their enemies tremble with fear. For example, before an attack, they lit a huge number of fires to create the illusion of a much larger army. Or their soldiers tied tree branches to horses' tails and ran in circles, kicking up dust to make it look like entire armies were advancing. But perhaps the most horrifying tactic was using catapults to hurl burning corpses onto rooftops. They also captured high-ranking individuals like generals and kings, tied them up, and placed them under makeshift floors. On these floors, they set tables and dined while the victims slowly died beneath them. The victims would scream in agony, but the Mongols would continue eating calmly. The food of the Mongol armies was just as grim. In times of famine, they resorted to cannibalism, selecting one of their own for sacrifice. They also drank their horses' milk and blood. Mongols weren't known for cleanliness either. They wore their clothes until they rotted off their bodies and never bathed, creating an unbearable stench. They covered themselves in animal skins, especially rats, which they stitched together. Genghis Khan also showed no mercy to captured women. He raped and kidnapped them to psychologically break his enemies. In his time, he wiped out 10% of the world's population, and he raped so many women that today, around 16 million people carry his DNA. This is the explanation scientists offer for the vast number of descendants. Even though records show that the Khan kept a harem of 500 women, this number alone doesn't account for the large number of his descendants. What seems grotesque and disturbing today was an effective way to demonstrate power 800 years ago. Accordingly, the 16 million people who carry the DNA of the great leader are the result of a ruthless military strategy. This included the systematic abduction and violation of women in conquered territories, often to send a humiliating message to defeated soldiers. The message was clear: look, you can't even protect your women. The goal was to psychologically break the few survivors. This ruthless practice for Genghis Khan was not just a means to an end. It is reported that the Khan once said, "Happiness is to crush your enemies, take their wealth, and sleep on the bellies of their wives and daughters." Paradoxically, despite his savage behavior and exploitative attitude towards the wives of his enemies, Mongol women had more rights than in many other countries of that time, and in some cases, even compared to today. They could participate in family councils, hold high positions, and even command armies. One of the most influential women in Genghis Khan's life was his wife, Borte. When Genghis Khan was young, he married a girl from a neighboring tribe. This marriage was significant not only personally but also politically, as it strengthened the ties between his family and Borte's family. The newlyweds were happy, and it seemed their union would bring peace to both families and their tribes. But soon, events took a dramatic turn. After the wedding, Temujin's camp was attacked by one of the hostile tribes, the Merkit. The reason for the attack was related to a blood debt. Temujin's father had once kidnapped Temujin's mother, Holon, from the Merkit, and now they sought revenge. They not only wanted to kill Temujin but also to capture his newlywed wife. Borte, as a symbol of revenge, was taken by the Merkit. This abduction became a personal tragedy for Temujin. Stricken by the loss of his beloved wife and realizing that his honor and authority were being challenged, he resolved to get Borte back at any cost. In a desperate attempt to rescue her, he sought help from his sworn brother Jamuka and his longtime ally Togrul, the ruler of the Karates, who helped him gather forces. Together, they attacked the Merkit and swiftly defeated them. As a result of this campaign, Borte was rescued and returned to her husband. However, upon her return, it became clear that she was already pregnant. The son born shortly after, Joki, became a source of doubt regarding his paternity. This doubt followed Joki for the rest of his life. This event was pivotal, influencing Genghis Khan's drive for power and determination. The kidnapping became not only a personal tragedy but also a catalyst for uniting the fractured Mongol tribes under a single rule and bringing order to the chaotic world of the steppes. It's also worth mentioning that Genghis Khan traced his lineage to a mythical ancestor, Bodankar, who, according to legend, was descended from a sacred blue wolf and a white doe. According to the legend, all Mongols claim their ancestry from this sacred union of the blue wolf and the white doe. This union of heavenly and earthly forces led to the birth of the first ancestors, who became the forefathers of future Mongol clans. In his youth, when Temujin's family faced hardships after his father's death, the wolf is said to have appeared to him in visions, giving him the strength to survive and fight his enemies. To cement his status as the chosen one, Genghis Khan swore a blood oath to the wolf. He made cuts on his palms and spilled his blood on the ground, offering it as a sacrifice to the wolf spirit to gain its blessing and protection. After the blood was spilled, a shaman would summon the spirit of the wolf. An oath made under such circumstances was considered unbreakable. Breaking it could result not only in human punishment, but also in the wrath of nature's spirits, which was the most terrifying consequence for nomads. When Genghis Khan was 20, after receiving the blessing of the wolf spirit, he led a campaign against the tribe that had killed his father and sought revenge. The Tatar army was defeated, and Genghis Khan began exterminating the people in a most unusual way. Every Tatar was lined up next to a cart and measured against the height of the axle, about 90 centimeters. Anyone taller than the axle was beheaded. In essence, only the children were spared. But such harshness wasn't always a trait of the Mongol leader. When Genghis Khan opened relations with the Muslim kingdom of Khwarezm, he did something unusual for himself. He attempted to establish peaceful relations. A group of diplomats was sent to the city, hoping to establish trade routes and diplomatic ties. However, the ruler of Khwarezm didn't trust them. He believed the diplomats were part of a Mongol plot and executed them. He also killed the next group sent by the Mongols for negotiations. Genghis Khan was enraged. He had tried to make peace, only to receive dead diplomats in return. In the end, an army of 200,000 Mongols attacked and completely destroyed Khwarezm. Even after the victory, Genghis Khan sent 2 more armies to burn every castle, city, and farm in the region, ensuring that no trace of Khwarezm remained in history. According to legend, he even redirected a river to flow over the spot where the Emperor of Khwarezm was born. Such was the nature of this contradictory ruler. But where, and for what purpose, is the famous Genghis Khan's tomb hidden? Genghis Khan was a man who knew exactly what he wanted, even in death. He decreed that his burial be conducted in the utmost secrecy, so he would disappear without a trace forever. Before diving into the great mystery of Genghis Khan's burial, let's briefly touch on another question. How did the Mongolian ruler actually die? According to a widely accepted theory, he passed away on August 18, 1227, while returning to Mongolia. This theory suggests that he suffered a serious internal injury in a horseback riding accident, which eventually led to his death. However, there is an alternative story claiming that Genghis Khan was killed by the Tanguts, specifically by a Tangut princess. She sought revenge for her people and wanted to prevent her own violation, so she took out a hidden knife and beheaded the Khan. Italian researcher Francesco Galassi, on the other hand, believes it's more likely that Genghis Khan died of the plague. Some legends mention a high fever that killed the Mongolian leader within a week. Regardless of how he died, one thing is certain: his funeral was possibly the bloodiest in history. According to legend, everyone who attended his funeral was killed. It's said that the Khan's burial site was leveled by thousands of horsemen so that it would never be found. The horsemen were then executed upon their return to ensure they couldn't reveal the location of the tomb. This brutal secrecy had the desired effect. To this day, no one has been able to discover it. Some experts suggest that Genghis Khan was buried in a province on the slopes of Burkhan Khaldun Mountain. He once told his companions, "What a view! When I die, bury me here." He was also born near Burkhan Khaldun, and since he once escaped from enemies there, he regularly prayed to the mountain. Despite the obvious significance the mountain held for him, this is just one of the many myths surrounding his burial. Another alternative theory claims that the burial site was hidden under a diverted river. This isn't a new idea. It's said that the tomb of the Sumerian god king Gilgamesh was hidden in the same way in the 3rd millennium BCE. When it comes to the lost tomb, many Mongolians still refer to it Karkal, meaning the Great Taboo. Archaeological efforts to find the tomb have often been met with strong resistance from local populations. Until the 1980s, excavations in the suspected burial area were strictly forbidden. In 1989, a Japanese-Mongolian expedition received permission to investigate the region using ultrasound technology. But despite identifying 1,380 potential burial sites, the land remained untouched. In 2001, historian John Woods and American archaeologist Maury Kravitz believed they found a hot lead. Their team began excavating a cemetery near Mount Binder, but the Mongolian Prime Minister halted all further attempts. He cited that the expedition participants were driving vehicles on sacred land and building structures near a historic wall, thus desecrating the ancestors' remains. Several years later, researchers from the University of California, along with volunteers, analyzed numerous high-resolution satellite images and selected 55 promising burial sites. However, none have yet undergone archaeological investigation. It remains to be seen whether Genghis Khan's tomb will ever be rediscovered. Until then, the death and final resting place of the great Mongolian ruler remain a mystery. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to leave your comments. See you in the next video.